Okay, so I will be doing my best to try and explain to you why you should try this great gem of a game if you have the opportunity to do so, without really trying to spoil it for you all. This is going to be kind of hard to do since really explaining why 13 Sentinels is an outstanding game and a gem of a game goes into deep spoiler territory. So I'm just going to be beating around the bush and trying to be vague as possible in the hopes that what I say encourages you to try the game, if you can. On the outside looking in, the game looks like a game where you just get into giant robots to defeat monsters and stop the end of the world. And to an extent, yes, that is part of the game. Even on the official game's website, it just mainly talks about customizing your Sentinel for battle. However, it really goes much deeper than that. The sci-fi genre for me is interesting because I can never really get a good feel for them, or I guess it's better to say that I usually either have a good time with them or a bad one. Luckily, this is one of the better experiences I've had. Going in, I just was like, okay, we got giant robots and we were fighting to save the world. However, after the first battle, something was definitely very off in the dialogue. Certain characters were talking about events and other characters that clearly haven't happened yet, because I was only about 30 minutes in, and at first I thought I had messed up or hit something that I wasn't supposed to at the time. But it's the exact opposite. This is how the game wants you to play it. You see, there are two different sections of this game that you can play. There are the 13 protagonist stories, the main story, and the battle simulation aspect. At first, you may be entitled to believe, like I was, that these two things go hand in hand with each other, but that's very far from the truth. The battle simulation part of the game is a split story from the main 13 protagonist stories. And it's kind of funny because you actually have to manually enter the screen selection and select what aspect of the game you want to go into in order to play it. And at first I really thought that was weird, but that's till I came to the conclusion and kind of start piecing things together that the battle aspect of the game is basically in-game stuff or near in-game before the credits roll, while the 13 protagonist stories is what events led up to the in-game stuff and how they particularly got to this part of their lives, which I am telling you right now is executed amazingly, but all their stories in their own right it's pretty dark and sad. And if I'm being completely honest with y'all, I really thought having like 13 protagonists would kind of hurt the story a lot, because in my opinion, most games that try to have more than at least 4 protagonists or main characters, it ends up hurting the story a lot, or only at certain times, because they try to cover all the characters in a light or a better light to make sure they all get equal screen time, characterization, yada yada yada. However, these stories were crafted in a certain way that I was just blown away with how amazing they were all tied together. Another thing that I loved a ton playing through these stories was not only piecing certain aspects together and filling in the holes, but how each one of these characters are amazing and very well written, that none of them ever bored me. I loved all the twists and turns the story took and loved finding out about how each and everything came to be. Again, I would love to talk more about why these stories and why the big overarching story is amazing, but the issue is that it goes into, well, spoiler zones. Like right off the bat when you want to discuss certain characters and when their certain stories are taking place. And I really can't talk about the battle selection story because, well, like I said earlier, it's basically all endgame stuff, or an all endgame story. I will say this, however, I had a gut feeling I had an idea of what exactly was going on. And later on, I was somewhat right, but not in the way I wanted to be. And I was just blown away with how deep this lore and story went after I would say, let's say 40% completion of the whole story altogether. Also, I nearly cried a few times near the end of everything and teared up a bit near post credits as well. Also, before I go into the gameplay and talk about that part, there's this part of the game called the Mystery Files. The game has a lot of information that gets tossed your way. I know that may sound bad, but it's nothing like an info dump or anything like that. Key elements are gone over very well, to the point where I never felt lost or didn't really understand that aspect that was being told to us. However, there are a handful of times where I needed a retake or another understanding of what a certain part of the game was. And in that sense, that's where these mystery files comes in. It keeps track of what exactly, or more, it keeps track of the more important parts of the game, and what it does is it tells you important details, whether they're related to someone, where their origin is, etc., etc., which I personally loved because There are a handful of times where I forgot something or it went over my head. So I just went in for a quick reminder and it really helped out a lot. Now there is the gameplay. The short and sweet answer is, it's great and I loved every moment of it. I'm a person that enjoys these type of chess-like games, even though I can barely play chess, where I need to plan every movement because if I don't, I get a game over or one of my pieces is out for a while and I really need that piece. It's sort of the reason why I love turn-based RPGs. It's a lot of planning, a lot of strategy. And another thing is that every character sentinel is important. Yeah, you can make certain ones overpowered, but each one has a counter to certain enemies that you need on your team. Or you should have on your team. I would also like to say that I played on normal difficulty and never got a game over screen till the second to last mission. That I would also like to say is easily the hardest level there is in this game, even on normal. Cause at first I was like, this isn't too bad. Then I realized what was happening and I needed to change my whole strategy around a complete 180 from what I was doing to adjust myself. Then there's the music. And another short and simple answer is that it's really fantastic. I do think each song is pretty good, but there are a handful of them that really stand out to me like a sore thumb. I do want to say this though about the soundtrack of the game. I don't think it's going to be for everyone. It's more of a techno type thing, if that makes any sense. I'm going to have some playing in the background while over this video. So if you kind of dig the music that's playing, then you'll like the game's soundtrack. If you don't, then I hate to break it to you, but you probably won't like it at all. Or maybe you will, I don't know. 13 Sentinels is a gem of a game. I had followed it for a bit up to its release and saw all the great feedback it was getting and was so excited to pick it up. However, due to, well, life, I couldn't at the time and had to wait on it. So I got it on sale and it was very well worth my money on sales price. And I'm even saying this right now, paying full price is good as well because this game is definitely worth the 60 bucks. And again, I really can't express this enough. Do not take the story at face value, because if you do, let's just say you're getting yourself into more than you can ever know. Also, I would like to say that the ending cinematic was honestly so breathtaking that it was like a completely different game that I was playing. I really do hope you check out this wonderful game, and I hope you all enjoyed this video of mine. I hope you all have a great and safe rest of your day, and until the next one, I will talk to you all later.